All right, y'all. So I'm back. This will be the final sleeve for this series. And then, y'all, we got to move on. All right. I've had fun with the sleeves, but I'm ready to keep it moving. All right. What we're going to do on this one is we are going to do a puffy sleeve with a non-stretch fabric. So this can be a stiff fabric. This could be whatever fabric you want. Non-stretch. And on the cuff, we're going to have buttons. All right. We're going to actually do a closure. So what I did, I have my sleeve measurements, as you can see. I have my sleeve pattern. As you can see, I transferred over all of the lines. I messed up the center line, so look at this one. All right. I transferred over all the lines. Not only did I do my front and back, but I went ahead and took those measurements in half. And so I have that sleeve pattern. Keep in mind how important it is when you're making a pattern to transfer over all of your lines. Then down here, I have what's called a placket. All right. I tried to press that out, but I'll show you why it's all wrinkled. I undid it and I decided to do it again to record. All right. This placket is 2 inches in width and then 10.5 inches going this way. And I'll show you where that 10.5 inches actually came from. Then up here, you have your cuff measurement. All right. I'm going to do a big old 5-inch cuff on my wrist. All right. In order for me to do a 5-inch cuff, that means I need 10 inches. So I have to double it. So I have 10 inches in width and then 8.5 inches in length. The 8.5 inches is my cuff measurement, which was 7 inches plus 1.5 inches. So I wrote that on there to just explain to you guys where my measurements are coming from. So back to this one. Where do we get 10.5 inches? All right. Now, first thing I want to say is keep in mind, if I'm going to have a 5-inch cuff on this thing, I need to cut my sleeve. Some of you may have noticed I already actually cut off 4.5 inches from the bottom of this. All right. So 4.5 inches are gone. This is the basic sleeve. So it's going to have a slight puff to it above the cuff. But keep in mind, you don't want the sleeve to be too long. You don't want it to cover up your cuff. So that's why you want to take away from some of that length. Another thing, if you want it even puffier, don't forget how to go and take that measurement, put that measuring tape right here and make that line, not measuring tape, yardstick, make that line at a diagonal line and then connect the bottom, all right, to give you more fullness. Now, the very first thing that we're going to do, because again, this one is going to have a closure to it, which means if you're using a stiff fabric, you can't just put the cuff on like we did with that last video. You have to have an opening and a closure for your wrist to go in. And then in order to tighten it at the wrist, you have to have buttons or you have to have some type of hook or snaps in order for it to close and still be very fitted around the wrist. So the first thing we're going to do, if you notice most of the time with buttons on a button up, you'll see the buttons on the inside of the wrist or around this part of the wrist, but you never really see the buttons on the top. So we're going to just kind of go on the inside of the wrist. So I'm going to take this line right here and I'm going to cut 5 inches. All right. I'm just going to cut 5 inches and then stop. So I cut my 5 inches and I kind of open it up for you just so that you can see that I cut it. All right. Again, you want to know where that 10.5 inches came from. It came from right here. If I cut 5 inches up with my placket, I'm going to need to go up 5 inches, curve around and go down 5 inches. Now this should look very familiar. We did something like that before. So now what we're going to do with the placket, you remember the last time we did something similar for the sleeve that was kind of open in the middle of the arm. So we're going to take this placket. We're going to fold it in half. We're going to press it, all right? Then we're going to go in. Basically, eventually, it's going to look like this. It's going to be folded here, and then folded. We don't have to worry about bringing in the side. I mean, the top and the bottom or the sides, whichever one you want to call it. You don't have to worry about that. Keep the edges raw, all right? So, again, you're going to fold it in half, Put that crease in there, fold that in, and then fold them together. All right, you're not going to press it. You're not going to stitch it. I am just tripping today. But you are going to press it with the iron. So that is my next step. So your placket should look something like this, all pressed. Keep in mind, you were supposed to serge all sides of this placket. I just did not do that for this video, all right? So, very simple. What we're going to do, open it up, not all the way up, just till you see both of your sides coming in. And you're literally going to align it at the bottom, align your fabric with the middle, and you're just going to sandwich that in there. And you're going to pin that all the way around. Go around the curve and do the exact same thing to where when it's in there, it's going to look similar to that. So that's what I'm about to do next. All right, so if you pin that thing on correctly, it should look very similar to this, as well as for me, I have a little bit of allowance in there. I give myself allowance on everything. I'm literally just going to cut that off. But just in case I accidentally cut a little bit too far up, I have that extra. I just give myself allowance on everything, all right? So this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like all the way around. Even at my curve, y'all, just be careful. Just be careful. Take your time. Take your time. But look at that. So now what I'm going to do, which I'm sure you've already guessed, we're going to sew it together where the pins are. Keep that fabric sandwiched in there. So you want to make sure that this fabric is wedged all the way to the middle, right here to this fold line, and then sandwiched in there, all right? That's how it's going to stay. So now I'm just going to stitch all the way around this curve, and I will give you the next step. All right, so I have that stitched on, y'all. Look at how pretty it's already looking. Now, let me lay this down because I want to show you a couple of things. All right. I'm the type of person, I love to do different things with fashion. So when I wear this type of cuff, sometimes I would literally just keep that curve in there and then go ahead and sew my cuff on. But what I noticed is that a lot of people, because it would literally show a little bit of skin in there. A lot of people don't like that, all right? I'm going to keep it real with you. And if you look at most button-ups, they aren't open like that, all right? That's how you can tell the difference between a fashion designer and, you know, just kind of the traditional do what everybody else does type of person. So what we're going to do, if you kind of try to make a straight line, if you make a straight line with that, if you open it up like this, and you just kind of put your finger in there, put this on top of the other one. But if you notice what happens, you can see the placket really, really good on the bottom, but on the top, it's covered. All right, it's almost like a little fold in there. If that's what you like, that's perfectly fine. All you got to do, again, press that out. And I'm just going to try that. I haven't done this in a long time, that type of technique. And so you just want to press that really, really good. And what you're going to do is put a small stitch. You're literally just one small stitch is going to go in there like that. All right, so it is going to be a noticeable stitch. It's just going to hold these two in place. All right, it's going to hold those two in place. So just right here on the corner, back stitch, go over just the length of the placket, and then back stitch right there. So you're going to have a little stitch in there. Let's also go ahead and get into the next step. The next step that we're going to do is we're going to gather. We're going to gather the bottom of this part. We're going to gather the bottom of this part. Then we're going to put our side seams together, and we're going to work on the cuff. Before I move on, I just wanted to show you your sleeve should look something like this. Here's that stitch. Here's that stitch I put in the top. It's right there. small little bitty stitch to hold those two on top of each other. Then I just gathered this little piece over here, and I gathered all of this. Now the total gather is going to be the length of your cuff measurement. So it's going to end up lining up with this cuff. There we go. It's going to end up lining up with this cuff that we did right here. Don't forget, I added about 1.5 inches, and we're going to use that for the buttons. So my wrist measurement was about 7, and if I want that my cuff to hug the sleeve perfectly, this is going to be a total of about 7 inches. All right, putting that on top of each other and then measuring, that should come to about 7 inches. Now let's go ahead and work on this cuff. All right, now this will be your first exposure to what's called interfacing. All right, what interfacing is, it hardens like cuffs, collars. You see a lot of interfacing, jackets, coats. It makes it really, really stiff. Like if your fabric is already stiff, that's one thing, but interfacing takes it to the next level. So if you notice, I have my cuff measurement, and right underneath it, I have this interfacing. All right, you buy it just like you would the fabric. Usually is by the yard, and it's really inexpensive. All right, with the interfacing, you have a rough side, like it feels completely different, and then you have a soft side. It's really, really soft. So what you want to do is on the wrong side of your fabric, let's pretend like this is my right side. On the wrong side of the fabric, so you're going to flip it over, you put the rough side on top of the wrong side of your fabric. And you know, like I said, I cut it completely even. And then all you do is iron it. And you're going to press that on. You guys, if you do this backwards, I'm trying to spare you. If you accidentally do that right side facing up and your iron touches that, it's over for your iron. It sticks, because that's what it's doing. That's the reason why we press it, because once you press that on there, look at that. That will not come off. It takes a lot of pressure to take that off. All right, and then it starts to rip and everything. Like this does not come off. It's like glued on there, but it's just press on. So it's like, you know, steam on glue. So imagine getting that on your iron. All right, so again, we're going to turn this around. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start working on our cuff. You need to serge all of this all the way around. We're going to serge this. Then we're going to take our cuff, because keep in mind it's going to be 5 inches. We're going to fold that in half, okay? And the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to sew our side seams together. Just the sides. Back stitch, go down, back stitch, jump over here, back stitch, go down, back stitch, turn it right side out, and I'll be right back. Y'all, so your cuff should look like this. It should look like this. It should be serged, whatever color your pattern is. Another reason why we wanted to serge this thing all the way around, y'all, is because alongside ironing it, it'll keep your interfacing intact, all right? Sometimes, depending on the interfacing, if it's cheap or if it's poorly made, it will start to come up. So it's good to have those stitches in there, all right? So then I just did a stitch on both sides of my cuff. And so now if I pull this thing right side out, you want to make sure you have a good sharp corner. All right. Usually I instruct, take some scissors, go on the inside of that cuff and pull that corner out. It should be good and sharp, and it should be flat. All right. If it's not flat, that's really simple. All you have to do is clip it. Just a small little clip like that. Don't go into your seam. Might be moving too much. There we go. Don't go into your seam, and just clip the corner. Then if you turn it, put your finger in there, turn it. It should be really crisp. You still need to take your scissors, push that fabric out, and you should have good, crisp flat corners, all right? So, have my cuff. That's what it looks like. And now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to press this thing out for one. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to, just go up just a little bit and press. Okay, so you're going to go up a little bit in here and you're going to press. Then you're going to line up the top and do the exact same thing. So let me show you. I say go up about a third of an inch. Get that good press going. Then you want to take your top and just align it right on top of there. And I have a reason for doing this. Get those corners to where it's going to end up being the perfect rectangle. So we're just lining those two up, just like that. Push that corner in, tuck that in, and we are going to have, again, just the perfect rectangle. Sometimes these corners like to act up, so now you know how to clip them, but do not go into your seam and do not go into your fabric, okay? Be really, really careful. So you're probably wondering, why am I doing this? Why am I putting myself through the stress of doing this? All right, because this can be really, really tedious. If you notice, I'm keep going back because I want to make this as even as possible. As even as possible. And you don't want any of your serging stitch to show. So everything needs to be nice and tucked and even. Nice, tucked, and even. I have a little rip in there and I didn't even know. All right, so we have the perfect little rectangle. Now what we're going to do, go back to the sleeve. We're going back to the sleeve. And we're going to go ahead and put our side seams together. Okay? So imagine this is your front. We're going to go ahead and sew our side seams together. And then I'll show you how to put on the cuff.